The furnace had passed its annual inspection 41 days earlier. The technician had signed the green sticker himself. That detail would matter more than Priya could have known. For 4 years, the golden retriever had slept in the same spot in the living room, a rectangle of warm carpet beside the radiator where he could watch both the hallway and the front door at once. He went there every evening at the same time. He never varied. On the first cold night of December, he stopped. He stood at the front door instead, pawing at it with a steadiness that Priya eventually identified, using her best guess, as separation anxiety triggered by a recent schedule change. Owen was 22 months old, in his second winter, pulling himself onto everything and saying the names of everything he touched. The house had a carbon monoxide detector on the hallway shelf. It had been there since they moved in. Nobody had thought about its battery in 14 months. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Biscuit would not settle. For 3 consecutive evenings he moved from the front door to the nursery door, back to the front door, stopping at each threshold to stand and breathe. Long, deliberate inhalations through his nose. His posture different from anything Priya had seen in 4 years. Her husband Rohan said, "Maybe the neighbor's got a new dog. Maybe he hears something outside. Maybe he needs more walks." Priya agreed with all 3 of these simultaneously, and none of them required her to examine the situation more carefully. That was the shape of the mistake. She had a toddler teething, a deadline the following morning, and a dog who had kept her from sleeping for 3 nights running. The laundry room was warm. He had water. The door clicked shut and she exhaled for the first time in days. Biscuit scratched for 6 minutes. Then he was quiet. At 2:17 in the morning, Priya woke with a headache unlike any she had experienced before. Not sharp, not pounding, a specific kind of pressure as though the air itself had changed its weight. She registered it as stress. She lay there for 4 minutes. Owen was quiet on the monitor. Rohan was asleep. She turned over. From the laundry room came an impact that shook the door in its frame. She was in the hallway before the second impact. The laundry room door was vibrating. She opened it. Biscuit came through in one motion, went directly past her toward the front door, stood there, looked back. She followed him. He pawed at the front door and looked back again. The cold air that came in was the first clean breath she had taken in hours, though she had not known until that moment that any of her breaths had been wrong. She stood in the open doorway and called 911. The fire department arrived in 9 minutes. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. The carbon monoxide reading in Owen's nursery was 194 parts per million. Sustained exposure at that level causes cognitive impairment, cardiac stress, loss of consciousness. The CO detector on the hallway shelf was tested on the spot. Its battery was dead. The technician who had signed the green sticker 41 days earlier had not inspected the heat exchanger thoroughly enough to catch the hairline. Cracked it had opened when the furnace cycled into its first hard run of the season. The crack had been venting exhaust directly into the house air supply for 4 days. Captain Darnell Fraser, 12 years with the fire department, spoke to them on the porch while Owen sat in Rohan's arms with a blanket around him. He said, "Your dog was pawing at the front door. That is what CO exposure does to animals before it affects humans. Their threshold is lower. They tell you in the only language they have." Priya thought about 3 nights of scratching at the front door. 3 nights of standing at thresholds and breathing. 3 nights of behavior she had read accurately as distress and misread completely as something manageable. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never ask for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. The furnace was replaced the following week. They bought 2 new CO detectors with backup batteries and put them on a replacement schedule. Biscuit went back to his corner by the radiator on the first night the new furnace ran. The next story, a dog who stayed between a toddler and her food for 3 days. Everyone thought he wanted to steal it. The morning after, Owen toddled into the living room and found Biscuit in his corner and sat down next to him the way he always did. Leaning against the dog's warm flank, Biscuit exhaled once and closed his eyes. The window light came through the curtain. The new detector on the wall blinked green. Everything in the room was exactly as it had always been, except the 4 people and 1 dog who understood now what it had taken to keep it that way.